The golden sunlight of late afternoon spilled across the grand hall of the Imperial Theater, bouncing off crystal chandeliers and gilded pillars, where an elite charity gala was taking place. Laughter echoed in polished waves, champagne glasses clinked, and music flowed from a sleek black piano under the fingers of one of the city's most renowned performers. The wealthy guests in their silk gowns and tailored suits were too busy admiring themselves, too preoccupied with their glittering world, to notice the thin figure standing hesitantly at the edge of the hall. She was small, her clothes frayed, her oversized jacket ripped and patched, her hair tangled from nights spent without shelter. Her name was Ariella, and she hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her stomach growled, but her eyes weren't on the trays of hors d'oeuvres carried by waiters. They were fixed on the shining grand piano. The instrument seemed to glow under the chandeliers, almost as if it called to her. That piano wasn't just wood and strings to Ariella, it was home, the one place she had always felt safe before life tore everything away. She clutched her jacket tighter, took a breath that felt like swallowing glass, and stepped forward, her voice trembling as she whispered the words that silenced the laughter for a brief second. Can I play for food? Viewers, before we dive deeper into Ariella's journey, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the miracles hidden within ordinary lives, please pause for a moment. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because together, we can spread stories that remind the world of its humanity. At first, the silence in the hall was absolute. Dozens of eyes turned to her. Some blinked in surprise, others frowned in disgust, and then, almost inevitably, the laughter returned. Cruel and mocking, it rose like a tide. Men in tuxedos smirked, women in jewels covered their mouths as if holding back giggles, and the pianist himself chuckled as he shook his head. To them, Ariella was just a homeless child, filthy and out of place, a disturbance to their perfect evening. One man even said loudly enough for the crowd to hear, "What's next? Will she sweep the floors for dessert?" And laughter erupted again. Ariella's face burned, her throat tightened, and for a second she wanted to run. But hunger and desperation were stronger than humiliation. She remembered her mother's voice from long ago, before the accident that had taken her away, saying, "Never stop playing, Ariella. Music is your gift. One day, it will save you." With trembling steps, she moved toward the piano. The pianist, still laughing, stood and mockingly bowed to her as if inviting a performance, certain she would make a fool of herself. Her fingers hovered over the keys. They were cold under her skin, so different from the battered instruments she used to practice on in her old school. The crowd's laughter still buzzed in her ears, but she shut her eyes, inhaled deeply, and let the silence wrap around her. Then, like a spark catching fire, the first note rang out. The sound was soft, hesitant, but as her hands moved, the melody grew. It wasn't a simple tune. It was thunder and rain, heartbreak and hope, sorrow and light, woven together into music that poured straight from her soul. The guests' laughter faltered, slowly fading until the hall was breathlessly quiet. Every note Ariella struck carried years of pain, nights spent sleeping in alleys, the memory of her parents' accident, the cruel stares of strangers, but it also carried defiance, resilience, and the unshakable beauty of a spirit that refused to break. People leaned forward in their seats, some covering their mouths, others blinking back unexpected tears. Even the arrogant pianist who had mocked her earlier stood frozen, his eyes wide in disbelief. Ariella wasn't just playing the piano, she was commanding it, bending it to her will like she had been born with the instrument as an extension of her own heartbeat. When the last note trembled into silence, it felt as though the entire world had stopped breathing. Then, suddenly, thunderous applause shook the hall. People leapt to their feet, their cheers echoing against the golden walls. The same guests who had laughed moments earlier now cried out in awe, shouting words like genius, prodigy, and unbelievable. Ariella, overwhelmed, sat frozen at the piano, tears rolling silently down her cheeks. She hadn't wanted fame. She had only wanted food. From the front row, a man in a gray suit with silver hair and kind eyes stepped forward. His name was Mr. Callum Harrington, a billionaire philanthropist who had remained quiet while others mocked her. Now, his voice carried across the hall as he declared, "This girl doesn't belong on the streets. She belongs on the stage." The crowd erupted again, but this time with cheers of support. Mr. Harrington approached Ariella, his hand gentle as he offered her not just food but something she had long forgotten existed, opportunity. He asked her to stay after the gala, promising her shelter, education, and above all, a chance to let her gift be heard by the world. For Ariella, it was as if the weight of her entire life had suddenly lifted. The days that followed changed everything. Ariella was given a room of her own, clothes that fit, and meals that filled her for the first time in years. But most importantly, she was given access to pianos that sang under her touch, teachers who refined her skills, and a stage that welcomed her. She practiced tirelessly, not because she had to, but because the music within her had finally found a home. Word spread quickly of the homeless girl turned prodigy, and soon, people from all corners of the city came just to hear her play. Yet Ariella never forgot where she had come from. Each time she performed, she looked out at the crowd and remembered the hunger, the loneliness, the sting of laughter meant to break her. Instead of bitterness, she turned that memory into fuel, reminding herself that kindness is what had saved her. She began using her performances not just to inspire but to raise awareness and funds for other homeless children, ensuring no one else with hidden gifts would be left to starve unseen. Her journey was not without struggles. She battled insecurities, haunted by the fear that she might one day be abandoned again, that her gift might not be enough. But each time doubt whispered, she returned to the piano, where her mother's memory lived in every note. She remembered the night at the gala, the silence of a mocking crowd transformed into awe, and she found strength to keep moving forward. Years later, Ariella stood on the stage of Carnegie Hall, her fingers flying across the keys, her music touching souls far beyond the glittering lights. In the audience, children from shelters sat in reserved seats, their eyes wide with hope, and Mr. Harrington, now older, sat proudly in the front row. Ariella's performance that night was more than music, it was a story of resilience, proof that even the smallest voice can echo louder than cruelty if given the chance. So, dear viewer, if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us bring more stories of kindness and second chances into a world that desperately needs them.